So how many people here have noticed something about your spouse or your loved one that you think they could be doing better this week? You noticed something. So Kimberly raised her hand, so I think all of you are okay to raise your hands. Okay. So how many people? How many people have given constructive criticism to a spouse or a loved one this week? All right, how many people really enjoy receiving constructive criticism from their spouse? So, Kimberly and I noticed this disconnect between our tendency to want to give constructive criticism versus the way we receive it. As it turns out, we give constructive criticism because we love the person, we hope their behavior will change, and they'll love us more. What really happens is their behavior usually doesn't change, and they resent you, right? So this is something that Kimberly and I learned after being together for 21 years. We're having dinner one day, like, oh my goodness, constructive criticism doesn't work in relationships. I mean, here we are thinking, okay, so when I say to Kimberly, hey honey, if you put it there, it's going to fall over, what she hears is, I'm not good enough. When she says to me, can you not leave your socks on the floor, what I hear is, I'm a lazy slob. So we said, okay, let's not give each other feedback. Let's just see how this goes. So a week went by, things are falling over, socks are piling up, and Kimberly comes back and says, okay, that doesn't work either. You can give me feedback under one condition. It's got to be funny. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is really insightful, because as it turns out, having a sense of humor in a relationship was actually the most important skill in maintaining a relationship. It certainly was the most important dating skill. It's the most important skill in your professional life. It's the most important skill in term sheet negotiations. It's the most important skill in international diplomacy, and yet it is completely overlooked by the education system. Instead, they teach you things like biochemistry, which isn't funny at all, right? So we're like, is it possible for us at this late age to learn how to be funny on cue? Now, Ken Hirschman can do this, but I can't, right? So we decided to go get some help on figuring out how to do this. How can you be funny when you're trying to help somebody and be giving them constructive criticism? So we went on this little journey, and I want to share with you what we learned so far. We learned 3 things. And we learned a lot more things than that, but these 3 things we think are pretty fun, pretty easy to do, and it's really effective. So the first of these is called callbacks. Now, callbacks is the idea that if something was funny earlier, you can usually bring it back within a 5 to 10 minute window, and it'll be funnier and funnier and funnier. Now, have you guys seen the show Seinfeld? So the Newman motif that comes out. I mean, Newman is a funny character, but it's the way Seinfeld says Newman that is really funny. And the show picked up on that, so they kept bringing it back episode after episode. That same sound, and it just got funnier and funnier. And no one can figure out why these things work, why callbacks work, but people have surmised that maybe it's a shared intimacy. It becomes the inside joke amongst the group. You can see this in poker tables, you can see it in basketball games. Something comes up, and people can just keep hitting that button. You know, different people can hit it, and it just gets funnier and funnier and funnier. That's the first one.
Sample? What? What did I do?
How could you?
How could I what?
You were making out during Schindler's List?
What? No.
Don't lie, Jerry.
No.
Kiss me.
Thank you. I don't know, watch it on TV, I guess. Why?
Well, if you watch closely enough, you just might see me. I'll be the one waving to the camera from my seat on the 40-yard line.
You going to the Super Bowl?
Yes, I am. A guy on my mail route just got a couple of tickets, and he offered one to me.
What's his name?
Tim Watley.
That's my ticket.
Is it? Oh, well, if only you'd known, you could have saved some time and given it directly to me.
No. Oh, I know the chunky that left these chunkies. Newman! I got it.
I have a receipt for a rental car with your signature, including a report of some damage to the rear seat. It seems as if the springs were so compressed that they completely collapsed the right side.
Newman!
The second thing we learned is the idea of status games. So, status is it's kind of a serious thing in real life. It's the pecking order. It's in nature. It's kind of brutal, and in our lives, in the real world, it's very anxiety-provoking. But there's the lighter version of the serious thing. Just like when cubs are playing, they're laughing. They're really practicing for the life and death encounter when they're adults. But when you're playing, when it's under control and you do it with an understanding, it's actually really fun. In the same way that hiding from predators is scary, but playing hide and seek is really fun and funny. The same way that playing tag in real life, you're going to get eaten, but playing tag when you're a kid is funny. So think about status games as the fun version of what you can do with something that is a very serious thing. So what status games means is when you're in a relationship setting or in a group setting, you can modulate setting either up or down. You can modulate your own setting up, down. You can modulate somebody else's setting up or down. Lowering your status is called self-deprecation. Ellen DeGeneres does this very well. She talks about status games as her main comic humor. You can lower somebody's status. That's called teasing. There are only two cardinal rules on status games. You can't keep lowering somebody's status. That's called bullying. You can't keep raising your own status. That's called being arrogant. But any other thing where you're moving status, if you keep the status mobile, it comes off as really fun. Now, you can see this in the email banter among guys. You can see this among girls. You can certainly see it when you're dating. There's a lot of flirtation is about the status games amongst a couple where you take control of this Darwinian instinct and you have a lot of fun with it. So you'll see that actually a lot of humor that you'll see in media is status games. I'm going to show you a second Seinfeld video. Hopefully that's this is the Newman video. All right, so
there it is.
now I'm going to actually start with an ad. This is an ad for Keystone Beer, and see if you can pick up the status changes that are going on in this video.
So what are you doing tonight?
Nothing.
Do you want to go to a party with me?
Yeah.
And we could just go to my place before and hang out.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Hold on.
Oh, I thought you were talking.
You can't always be smooth, but your beer should be. With a specially lined can to seal in the taste, Keystone Light is always smooth, even when you're not.
I'm really sorry about what just happened.
Oh, that's cool. I feel embarrassed.
Just a second.
Oh, man.
You guys saw 4 status changes, right? I mean, this guy's status, he was low status. Status means not only the social status, but it can be your physical status. It can be your voice status. You can talk about a serious subject, but in a very low tone that can come off as funny. You can talk about a very light subject in a very serious way. It can be status relative to objects. You can slouch down. When a king falls, that's a classic funny scene because his status just went down, but a grandma falling is not funny because her status was already low. So these are status modulation. This guy literally was low, girl walks in, he thinks that she's interested in a date, he stands up, his status just got higher, turns out she's talking on the cell phone, status gets crushed, and he's back in line, and it sounds like she's apologizing to him, hey, I'm really sorry about what happened back there. So he's start getting a little status boost, and then boom, it turns out she's still talking on the telephone. Here's a very famous set of scenes that came out of Seinfeld about the soup Nazi.
Excuse me, I think you forgot my bread.
Bread, $2 extra.
$2, but everyone in front of me got free bread.
You want bread?
Yes, please.
$3!
What?
No soup for you.
Good afternoon. 1 large crab bisque to go. Red. Beautiful.
You're pushing your luck, little man.
Sorry. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey there. Oh. One mulligatawny and, what is that right there? Is that lima bean?
Yes.
Never been a big fan. You know what? Has anyone ever told you look exactly like Al Pacino? You know, Scent of a Woman? Hoo-ah! Hoo-ah!
Very good. Very good. You know something? No soup for you! Come back 1 year.
All right, so that's called status games. When Kimberly and I, there's some mistakes made. The way she plays the status game with me now is, let's say, hey honey, did you remember to get the taxes off today because it was a deadline? And the way she responds is, if she hasn't done it, she does a whole circus bow. Ta-da! I totally forgot. And by taking control of the mistake and yet changing the status of it, like totally aggrandizing the mistake, I can't help but laugh. And like literally, the moment's over. Like the stress is over. So that's an example of how you can use status games to respond to conflict in a very positive way. So I'll talk about the last one. The third one that we picked up, it's this notion of stating the obvious. Now this was gifted to us by Chris Sams, who runs improv, Bass Improv. He's the head of corporate coaching at Bass Improv. And he said the third thing you can do is state the obvious. I'm like, Chris, that's not funny at all. Stating the obvious sounds really boring. It's like, watch this. So Kimberly and I played this game. I said, okay, why don't you guys pretend you're on a blind date and start stating the obvious. So we say, hey, do you come here often? We're at a coffee shop. Nice to see you here. It's like, stop. You're not stating the obvious. All you're doing is talking, going through pleasantries. This is what most people do. Now try to just state the obvious. Okay, well, your shoes are black. Your blouse is white. Your wedding ring's shiny. And we both burst out laughing. Because we're supposed to be on a blind date, right? And somebody's wearing a wedding ring. And that was the point he made, which is that in real life, there's always elephants in the room. And when you point it out, it'll feel really funny. Most of the time, of course, we're not paying attention. Most of the time, we're not seeing things. But anybody that points out the elephant in the room is going to draw a huge laugh. So for instance, if I'm standing up here and I had ketchup on my shirt this entire time, and I didn't talk about it, all I have to do 30 minutes into it is just say, I've got ketchup on my tie. And the whole room bursts out laughing. It's because the elephant's been pumped up all that time. You guys are all anxious, and all you got to do is bust the tension, and that's what makes people laugh. So right now, if armed robbers came to the Peninsula Club and just came and took all of our wallets, all you got to do, Jason, is just say, well, that sucked, and the whole room burst out laughing. And I finally understood sarcasm after all these years. In that same situation, armed robbers come in, take all our wallets, all you got to say is, well, that was fun, right? Which is stating the obvious, but exactly the opposite. That'll also draw the laugh. That's like essentially what sarcasm is state the obvious, but with a status change, do it the exact reverse. So let me show you a video. There's a master of this thing called state the obvious, and his name is George Carlin. Yeah. Baseball?
Anyway, as part of this boarding process, they say, we would like to pre-board. Well, what exactly is that anyway? What does it mean to pre-board? You get on before you get on? That's another complaint of mine. Too much use of this prefix pre. It's all over the language now. Pre this, pre that. Place the turkey in a preheated oven. It's ridiculous. There are only 2 states an oven can possibly exist in, heated or unheated. Preheated is a meaningless fucking term. It's like pre-recorded. This program was pre-recorded. Well, of course it was pre-recorded. When else are you going to record it? Afterwards?
All right, guys, thank you.